Welcome to Money Majlis. Today I am in the bustling metropolis of Mumbai, the financial capital of India, to speak to an international banker who has recently taken over as Group CEO of one of India's largest private banks. He is an ex-colleague, a friend, and a very wise banker with extensive experience in multiple geographies. But first, a message from the sponsors of this podcast.
Money Majlis is proudly supported by Aqua Now, the premier crypto-as-a-service provider, now building in partnership with the top financial institutions in the Middle East. Discover more at aquanow.com.
Money Majlis is brought to you by E&, a global technology group.
Money Majlis is brought to you by Intellect Design Arena, driving digital adoption in banking and insurance.
Money Majlis is brought to you by Live Digital Bank, powered by Emirates NBD. Trust and innovation combined.
Money Majlis is brought to you by Network International, the leading digital payments technology company in the Middle East and Africa.
This is Money Majlis, and I am Ashok Sarkar, coming to you today from the busy city of Mumbai, where I have traveled to meet up with the big boss of Kotak Mahindra Bank. Kotak Mahindra is India's first non-banking finance company to be converted into a bank. Established in 1985, Kotak is one of India's leading diversified and integrated financial services conglomerates, providing a wide range of financial solutions across customer and geographic segments within India. It has customer assets of around $60 billion and a customer base of 52 million. My guest today is Ashok Vaswani, the Managing Director and CEO of Kotak Mahindra Bank since January 2024. A banking veteran with over 35 years under his belt, Ashok Vaswani has held leadership positions at some of the world's largest financial corporations. Ashok has worked with Citibank and Barclays Bank, where he successfully built and operated businesses across multiple countries. He served as CEO of Barclays Bank in the UK and later as CEO of their global consumer, private, corporate and payments businesses. Prior to that, he was CEO of Citigroup Asia Pacific, and most recently, he was president of Pagaya Technologies, a US-Israeli AI fintech. Ashok is a Bachelor of Commerce from Sydenham College in Mumbai, a chartered accountant and a company secretary. He supports various philanthropic organizations including Pratham and Lend a Hand. I'm sitting in this wonderful office of Kotak Mahindra Bank, the head office building in Mumbai, and sitting with my ex-colleague and friend Ashok Vaswani, who's been running Kotak Mahindra Bank since the last 10, 11 months.
10 months.
10 months. Ashok, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. And so good to see you in this new role, in this new office. I think last we met was in London a few years back.
That is true.
Over a drink. I remember that. And you were running Barclays then. Very happy to be catching up with you after a few years in a very new avatar. Ashok, you're close to completing a year now as CEO of one of the leading private banks in India. Now, I know you studied and grew up in India and you worked in India for a little while, not very long, and we were ex-colleagues from Citibank in the early days of the consumer business. How does it feel to be back home in India in a CEO capacity of a local entity? What are some of the things that you had expected about working in India after so many years and has caught you by surprise, somewhat by surprise now? And connected question, how will you compare the work cultures in India with other parts of the world? You worked in US, you worked in UK, elsewhere, Singapore. What are you seeing which is different?
Wow, that's a lot. First of all, it's really good to be back. I am so pleased I did this. It's really great to be back. The energy, the vibrance, the activity, all the stuff that's happening in India right now is simply amazing. And it's happening in a physical avatar, it's happening in a digital avatar.
Mm-hmm.
It's about people changing their mindset.
Yeah.
It's a completely different India from what I left way back in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been out 35 years. 35 years, huge, incredible amount of change. It's also fantastic to be back, uh, working for an Indian company. I'll tell you a funny story which
Mm-hmm.
kind of sums it up, right?
Mm.
An American company, and I'm not going to take the name because all of us know people at that company.
Okay.
They came to me. I had my entire team with me, and they wanted to do a partnership. And so they kind of laid out, how we're going to do the partnership, this, that, and the other. And through that conversation, I was really warming up. I was thinking, wow, this looks like a great idea and stuff like that. So after they left, I asked my team to stay back. And I said, what did you think? Isn't this a great opportunity? And they said, are you crazy? Don't touch them with a barge pole. And I said, why would I not touch them with a barge pole? Say, look, first things first, no decision making will happen in India.
Mm-hmm.
All decision making will happen back in the US.
Right.
Number two, if the US CEO changes, you don't know what changes and it'll completely be gone.
Mm.
My God, that hit me. Like literally like a bullet in the middle of my forehead, right? That the way of thinking and the confidence
Mm-hmm.
saying we don't need these guys to really do what we do.
It's a very different attitude now.
It's just an incredible attitude. And, frankly, now that I think about it, they're absolutely right.
Mm.
They're absolutely right. We don't need that kind of capability.
Mm.
We have it homegrown.
Yeah, it's new India you're seeing now. Eh?
It's just incredible. The whole attitude and confidence is something that's quite.
And how do you find the work culture, Ashok, in terms of working hours, commitment, all of that?
So India being India, things start a little later than what I'm used to.
Mm.
They go on much later.
Yeah.
Far less privacy. People tend to call at any time and stuff like that. But there is a method to the chaos. And, you get used to those kinds of things. It's like the mindset I got into it, it's like going to any other new country.
Yeah.
And you learn how to behave in, how that country behaves.
Mm.
And here it is 24/7. You're on.
And I heard from your team earlier that you work weekends as well. So is that something new for you compared to the UK, for example? No boundaries at work?
Not really, because even in the UK, every Friday I used to get a bunch of weekly reports, about 40 or 50 weekly reports, and that would take me well into Saturday evening.
But nobody called you on the weekend. Did anybody call you?
No, nobody called. But, frankly, the flow of communication is what you respond to. If you don't take calls, automatically people stop calling you. If you respond to LinkedIn, everybody shows up on LinkedIn.
Correct.
If you respond to WhatsApp, everybody shows up on WhatsApp. So literally, it's like water flows at the easiest way. That's what happens with communication as well.
Are you getting used to WhatsApp? This is the most popular social media tool in the country, right?
Yeah.
Everything happens on WhatsApp, right?
Everything happens on WhatsApp. But I mean, WhatsApp was something, it's far more extensive here, no doubt.
Yeah.
But something we've used overseas
Now,
as well.
sticking to the digital theme, Ashok, the digital revolution in India has been nothing short of amazing, right? I mean, the public infrastructure stack is absolutely second to none. Over 96% of transactions are on digital, 30 to 40% loans and accounts are open digitally. And I just read that monthly digital transactions in the UPI, the volumes are 100x up the last 5 years. 100x up in 5 years. That's unprecedented.
And expected to go up by 5x in the next
from next 5 years. Yeah. As
In 1 year.
somebody, in 1 year. Oh, wow. As somebody who's been a digital evangelist, what do you foresee as the next steps in an India digital story? What is the next wow for Indian consumers, or have they seen it all?
No, they haven't seen it all at all. I was lucky to have spent time with Nandan Nilekani.
Yeah.
And what he's thinking about and he's doing. And his ambitions have grown. He's not only talking about India, he's now talking to central bankers around the world. And he talks about a term called finternet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really think about what he's saying that basically you can tokenize all kinds of ownership,
Mm-hmm.
you can tokenize identity, and that will completely change the way finance is done,
Mm-hmm.
right? Including cross border. The other thing about India, I was talking a little bit about its growing confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is also India is internationalizing on its own terms.
Mm-hmm.
So, you talk about UPI, for example.
Yeah.
UPI is going to go international.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of your listeners in the Middle East, for that matter, Asia, are soon going to start using UPI
Mm-hmm.
to
You're
do
aware that UAE
transactions.
has already adopted the India stack,
Exactly.
and then a new debit
Exactly.
card scheme called J1, and the new peer-to-peer payment called Ani are actually based model on the India stack.
And all cross-border remittances
Yeah.
will soon go on UPI. And in
Mm.
fact, recently, I think they opened up UPI to NRIs as well.
Yeah.
So this internationalization of the digital stack,
Mm-hmm.
I think, so between advances in what Nandan calls finternet and internationalization of the stack, my God, you ain't seen anything as yet.
But Ashok, on the other side of the story, if you talk of financial inclusion, India is still lagging at 65% compared to other countries. It's grown by leaps and bounds in the last 10 years, but it is still at 65%. What is your comment on that? Do you go around cities and towns? I'm sure you do, seeing what's going on in rural India?
Suvo, I tell you, there are 314 government-defined benefits transfer programs.
Yeah.
Today in India, you can link your Aadhaar card to any account and get direct reimbursement into your account
Mm-hmm.
for any of the 314 schemes,
Amazing.
right? This is going to go leaps and bounds,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Not only a bank account, but including insurance, medical insurance, life insurance is going to take leaps and bounds,
Mm.
right? I think 65% is just like the first stop. This is going to go gangbusters.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm not sure that the UK and the US are significantly higher than us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I think there's financial inclusion issues there as well. May not be 65, would be a higher number,
Mm.
but we are on a roll and we have the rails and we have the determination to just grow this quite aggressively.
Mm. Ashok, now moving to the banking industry in India, it seems to be more robust than ever before, with NPAs of less than 1%, very healthy returns on assets, returns on equity seem all going northwards. And India is well poised to support the country's aspirations to become, a developed economy by 2047. In your mind, what are the key engines of growth that will drive the banking sector in the country for the next 2 decades? I mean, you said recently that Kotak Mahindra Bank aims to be among the top 3 private lenders by profit by the end of the decade. How do you see the bank achieving its aspirations in this
Yeah.
regard?
I think two stories. One is the India story and one is the Kotak story.
Yeah.
I think as far as the India story is concerned, you're right that it's been quite a Goldilocks period.
Mm.
Having said that, I think we are starting to see these strains in the unsecured market.
Yep.
And I think that will that'll create there will be people who will come out okay, and then there'll be people who will not come out okay, particularly in the unsecured market. And there is a certain amount of over leverage in the market, which has to kind of flow through.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll happen. I think India's march towards a developed country is based on three factors. The first factor is, of course, employment, right? We have to continue to generate jobs and quality jobs if we are going to get there. Number two is a lot of the growth is still dependent upon government capital expenditure.
Yep.
And if government capital expenditure slows down like it did in the first 2 quarters of this year, you see a dip in kind of GDP. Now,
Yeah.
it's still at a very high number, but relatively speaking, lower. And the third thing is private capex has to kind of pick up, right? And private capex has still not picked up to the kind of rate that one would have hoped or one which is aligned with the kind of growth aspirations that India has. So I think those are the three big factors as far as India goes. Like I said, the internalization, a lot of the advances in the financial sector have really been about India opening up and deregulation. I think the next decade, 2 decades, it's all going to be about the Indian economy integrating into the global economy. And like I said, India will do it on its terms, not on the established ways which other countries have done it. So I think those are like the four big factors that affects India's economy. Kotak is in a very different situation. Well, not very different, but has different things. Kotak is a great brand. It's an incredible platform. There's not a single financial services product that we don't manufacture. For the most part, on the institutional side of the house, I think we are very, very well poised. But we have not scaled. And I think the fundamental challenge in front of us is how we transform to scale. And that is the kind of mantra that we've kind of gone along with. Transform for scale. And if we can really transform for scale, there's really no reason why we can't be the third largest group and bank in terms of profitability. As a group, I mean, it's an incredibly powerful group. And I mean, throwing out a lot of cash, we consume far less capital than we generate. So literally everything is in place. And if we can get this transform to scale kind of program right, we are there.
Excellent. Now, sticking to Kotak Mahindra's strength, one of your strengths has been wealth management. You reputed to be one of the best wealth managers in India for a long time. My question, Ashok, is how do you manage this differently from the other players? And are you seeing some of the emerging competitors, whether it's fintechs, whether it's startups like 361, are they nibbling at the edges for you? Are you worried?
So look, I think at the basis of all of this is human relations, right?
Yeah.
Particularly when you've got a lot of wealth, it's the people and the personal relationships that matter more than anything else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's obviously very fashionable to say digital come and digital will do this and digital will do that and stuff like that. Over the years, and I've been a great proponent of that.
Yeah.
But I've also had scars on my back every time it's come to wealth management and private bank, whether it was when I was running the private bank in the US or whether I was running the private bank in the UK. What I really came to realize that when you talk about digitization or automation of the private bank, it's about how do you make the RM look really, really smart. So it's digitizing to the RM.
Got it.
Not necessarily digitizing to the customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the wealthy customer, the high net worth customer, will sit at a cocktail party, pick up the phone and say, ye kar do, or just get this done.
Yeah.
And, next to his friends, he wants to amaze them that just got done.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, that's obviously a little facetious, but then wants to have a detailed kind of conversation or wants to get into depth. And, a lot of people have this notion that money is all about Excel worksheets and precision and stuff like that. I'm completely in the camp that money is all about emotion. There is nothing rational about money. Absolutely no rationality.
Okay.
It's purely emotion. And right, I mean, you think about every time.
That's an extreme view, Ashok. That's an extreme view.
It's an incredible. I mean, look, think about the last time when you bought a house and you went with your wife and what were you looking for?
Yeah.
And, how much did the budget versus, whether you're going to pay 835 or 845. Of course, you paid attention to that. But at the end of the day, that joy of getting that house or paying $100,000 more, getting that thing done fast so that you could show your wife that you could buy a house worth, $4 million. That was the more kick out of it than, the house in itself.
No, a house is an emotional decision. I agree totally. A much more emotional decision than
credit card. You flash your credit card.
But your returns on your investments, isn't that more rational?
Well, returns on investment, I'm not saying completely discount it, right? What is it? It's about saying, oh, I bought Nvidia stock. My banker told me I buy Nvidia. I bought Nvidia and did really, really, really well. Nobody talks about, hey, you bought this,
And it's gone down so
puppy
much.
stock and that kind of really kind of went down, right? Ultimately, what you're looking for is a different thing, right? In your wealth management, you're actually looking for, am I looking to get a second income? I'm looking to get either, have inheritance to my kids. I want to do philanthropy, as we kind of talk about. Those are the larger objectives, right? And if you stay with the larger objectives and you stay with the emotion, right? If you have somebody who you can really trust, who will take care of your money for your kid, are you willing to give up 10, 15, 20 basis points?
Yeah, of
I
course.
would submit more.
Of course. But tell me, on that note, how are your RMs different? Have you trained them differently to be either more empowered in terms of tools or more emotionally connected to customers? How are they different from the other RMs?
It's the relationship. Look, I think it's part of the whole banking platform, right? We deal with clients across a whole wide variety. So just think about it. We get some company who's going to do an IPO.
Yeah.
We obviously help them with the IPO, pre-IPO. We can set up trust for all the employees.
Yeah.
Have their shares there. That's kind of taken care of, right? Those kind of intangibles that we can build because we can provide a whole range of services, right, is what really helps us. And that's the arsenal that our wealth managers have, our wealth bankers have to go have those conversations and the relationships they build. Now, it's not as if some of them haven't left us. It's not as if there are other people who are not copying our model. Of course there are. But I worry far less about the digital folks rather than those who are kind of building it out on the relationship.
This is a good time now for a commercial break. And here is a message from my sponsors. Do remember that our sponsors help to produce this podcast and also help us with Money Majlis gift cards that are redeemed for a number of consequential worldwide causes. So thank you, sponsors.
The financial world is changing fast. Institutions need to meet the growing client demand for crypto financial services, but they need a battle-tested platform to build upon.
AquaNow is a leading crypto financial services platform, powering incumbent institutions to launch crypto brokerage, payments, and remittance services for their clients, securely and at scale.
Be part of the transformation. Visit aquanow.com today.
The end touches your life
in more ways than you can imagine.
You want more tech,
More speed.
more convenience,
more entertainment.
more business solutions,
Ian gives you all that.
and so much more. And go for more.
Parents teach their children to talk, to walk, to ride, to read. So why not teach them about managing their money? Introducing the all-new Live Light app, designed to teach 8 to 18-year-olds good money habits. A free and totally secure app designed for them that's always under your control. Top up their cards, set limits, assign tasks, and reward them with allowances. Download the LiveX app to open a Live Light account in minutes, and the first 50 dirham allowance is on us. Visit live.me today. Live Digital Bank by Emirates NBD. Trust and innovation combined. T's and C's apply.
Money Modulus is brought to you by Intellect Design Arena. Intellect drives digital adoption in banking and insurance. Leverage emac.ai, the most comprehensive, composable, and intelligent open finance platform for banking and insurance transformation. Intellect Design Arena.
The end touches your life
In more ways than you can imagine.
You want more tech,
More speed.
more convenience,
more entertainment.
more business solutions,
Ian gives you all that.
and so much more. And go for more.
And tell me, with the withdrawal, or let's say with the downsizing of many of the international banks, including our ex-bank, Citibank, etc., especially in the consumer space, is there a bigger opportunity today for Indian banks to excel?
See, market after market, any market in the world is dominated by local banks.
Yeah.
Right? Any market. You choose the market and you can see that.
Yeah.
I think
In the consumer space primarily.
primarily in the consumer space.
Yeah.
In the consumer space, this notion of a global retail bank, frankly, seems to be dead. Because the whole premise was built on the fact that you could have a single factory and manufacture and distribute. That notion of a single factory just has not, it's just not possible because of regulatory environment.
Yeah.
Plus the regulators want to keep it under their control. Plus the regulators want local capital. So there are too many impediments in the way to kind of build that out, right? So sorry.
No, so my question was, do you think local Indian banks in India, for example, have an opportunity to build much higher market share
Oh,
than the
100%.
likes of national bank, HSBC, Citi,
100%.
whoever else?
I think, look, 100% true in consumer banking, local corporate banking, and stuff like that. There are certain areas where foreign banks have an advantage. In some cases, they've got a regulatory advantage because they can do something from overseas, which we can't do. And in some cases, it's just that their capabilities. Custody, for example, right, is a great case, right? I mean, it's very hard to beat Citibank or Citigroup at custody, right?
Yeah.
So there are certain areas where they definitely have an advantage.
Ashok, we both worked in banks where we've seen a lot of silos, right? The mentality between wholesale banking, consumer banking. Even with the consumer banking, cards and loans don't talk to each other. How are you setting out as CEO of Kotak Mahindra to break those silos?
So fundamentally, the fundamental thing I'm saying is forget about the digitization and all. The one thing technology has done is technology has forced us to break silos, right? And I'll talk to you a little bit about my experience in the US and what really happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you start saying the customer is the North Star, right? And how you reorganize the whole place around customer centricity, that breaks it down throughout. So think of rows and avenues, right? So you have street and avenues, So you have streets, you can choose whatever you want, but streets could be product and avenues are customer. And how do you have customer-centric proposition and drive that? And look, honestly, I'm not saying anything new. In the corporate bank, for example, we've been doing this the day I joined banking. We always talked about what is the return at a customer level, right? And I think that kind of thinking.
The product line matrix,
Correct.
No, so are you saying that you've been able to break those silos down at Kotak
No,
Mahindra?
I'm saying it's work in progress. That's what I'm trying to do very hard to change that and bring the customer-centric kind of approach at Kotak.
Talk about silos. In your earlier role before joining Kotak Mahindra, you were president of Pagaya, the US fintech that you worked in for some time. That seemed to have done this, right, in terms of providing solutions at a customer level, right? Now tell me your experience running a fintech in the US versus running a bank in India. What are some of the lessons from the fintech that you brought in?
So before I get into what are the kind of thing, just look at this model, okay? It's incredible. What does Pagaya do? Pagaya basically on the one hand connects banks or lenders to capital markets. Okay. So basically it says, let's say bank X in the US, they do credit cards, typical approval rate on credit cards 55%, 45% gets rejected. In real time, the reject comes to Pagaya. Their artificial intelligence models are able to predict whether this will be a good customer or a bad customer. And then if it's a good customer, they move the economics on to a pre-funded securitized pool of funding.
Wow.
Okay. This all happens real time. Okay. Now, tell me, why can't a bank do this? Right. Just tell me why a bank can't do this. Any bank, Barclays, Citibank, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, right? JP Morgan Chase, they've got the investment bank. Securitized pools of capital is not hard for them to do. They're doing securitization for everybody and their brother. They are the largest credit card issuer or maybe second largest credit card issuer in the United States. There's absolutely no reason they can't do it. The only reason they are not doing it is because they are running in silos. Right? The investment bank does options every single day. Yet, for a customer, this is what I used to figure out in the UK, everybody in the UK goes for a holiday. Okay, because the country is so small, you go to either Europe or the United States or Africa or whichever country. You need foreign currency, right? They plan their holidays well in advance. Why couldn't we sell them an assured package on FX, which basically says the best FX rate either as of today or the day you fly?
Correct.
In customer language, that is an easy proposition. And £5 if you want this, right? And that'll be better option pricing than the investment bank can ever make. Do they have the capability to do it? Absolutely. Do they do it? No. Why? Silo. technology has broken down these silos,
Mm.
right? And therefore, how do you think about technology as the way that allows for letting the customer to access different part of the organization?
And this is the advantage fintechs have over banks, right? They
No,
don't have
not
silos.
necessarily true. I won't agree with that.
Okay.
The reason I won't agree with that is fintech will always go in a very narrow niche.
Mm-hmm.
They will never go breadth. See, the trouble is when we go for technology, the first thing we say, what is the ROI? And therefore, how can we automate stuff and therefore take people out? That's the first call.
Mm.
And I'm saying that's the wrong place to go. Of course, we have to do that.
Mm.
But that's the wrong place to go. So fundamentally, if you believe human relationships are important, automate for the RM
Mm.
or automate for the branch, not for the end customer.
Mm.
Some automation for end customer is a good thing.
Yeah.
Let's identify opportunities where you can bring technology together to meet the needs of the customer holistically.
Mm.
If you can do that, I think you will be the bank of the future.
Excellent. But I go back to my second part of my question, Ashok, is given that you wore that hat for some time in the US, which not many bankers have, right, running a fintech, are you importing some of those lessons into the bank?
So there are lots of lessons there and the technology. Let me tell you, the Israeli technology stack
Mm.
and the engineers in Israel
Mm.
are superior,
Mm-hmm.
right? Absolutely superior, right? Because everybody goes for military draft in Israel. They're exposed to the most advanced technology there is.
Yeah.
And they're actually encouraged to take that technology and go out and put it into the commercial world.
Mm.
Now, Israel itself is such a small market that usually these engineers come out, get a great idea. The first stop is the United
Yes.
States of America.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that technology which they have is superior.
Mm.
Right? How do we take those lessons and make it core here?
Mm.
And how do we think about that? Right? And then what are the areas that we pick up to really execute against?
Mm.
Right? And that's definitely on my mind as we continue to roll out the strategy for Kotak.
And staying with the technology, Ashok, we are in the midst of the Gen AI revolution. So I have to ask you a question on AI, which is, what is your take on how Gen AI will transform banking in India? What are you already doing and what do you plan to do?
So look, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that AI is going to be as transformative as the internet was, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I don't think it's going to be a straight line. There will be bumps along the way.
Mm.
And I think right now, maybe there's an overhype around AI.
Yeah.
Now, again, as usual, we're asking the question, so what's the ROI?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, how can we use AI to take costs out? So everyone says we're going to do a bot and we're going to make sure the call doesn't go to the call center person. It's going to get handled by a bot. And guess what? I still haven't come across
A single
one
bot
good bot
that works Very
anywhere
true.
in the world.
I agree with you. Totally.
Not one.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the key question is,
Yeah.
what are we going to do
Mm-hmm.
to leverage AI,
Yeah.
right, to really drive value for the firm? And I think that's the question that still needs to be answered. That's what we are kind of working through.
And are you seeing advances happening in AI in the country?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's amazing stuff happening.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, some of the stuff you hear about blows your mind.
Now, flipping that coin, Ashok, you are a strong advocate of customer centricity. And we all know that's the biggest differentiator in banking. But despite the best intentions and efforts, service excellence remains the elusive holy grail for most banks. What are your thoughts on the fundamental challenges that banks face on this front? Why are banks so poor in service? And how do you see this improving in the coming years?
So look, I think a big thing around this is expectations have changed, right?
Mm.
So like today when you order a book, you use Amazon or anything you order Amazon.
Correct.
Right? Zepto, I don't know if you've heard about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, of
but
course.
it's like,
yeah.
it's a big deal in India and they
Yeah.
promise 10-minute delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. By the way, the two Dubai boys who set that up, as you know.
Okay,
Zepto
I
set
thought
up
there were
by
two Stanford boys who said
who
it.
didn't go to Stanford, but from Dubai.
Oh, from Dubai.
Yeah,
Okay.
they grew up in Dubai. Yeah.
Oh, they
yeah.
grew up in Dubai. That's fabulous. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we have to live with this notion that every single financial services product is a means to an end rather than an end in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And therefore, how you deliver that, at what speed you deliver that, and how you can do that proactively becomes super, super, super critical, right? And I think that keeping up with that race and getting into that mindset,
Yeah.
right, that you are a means to an end, right? Bankers can be, so as you know, both of us have grown up here, can be quite arrogant,
Yeah, of course.
right?
Yeah.
We have to eat humble pie and say, hey, we're just part of the thing, and part of the solution, and change the mindset around that, and that's how we've got to get it done.
And is that happening in Kotak Mahindra Bank today? How do you rate your own service?
I'm pushing customer centricity very hard. I would say we're trying. I spend a lot of my time on saying, how do we live service? What do we do? How do we get away with stuff? It's a lot of, look, it's a pretty much, this is a huge cultural change. And the cultural change is the most hard thing to kind of get done.
It's a long haul as well, right?
It's a long haul as well. So I would say it's work in progress.
Okay. Ashok, just shifting gear, you are a passionate promoter of education, and you've been closely associated with SPJ and London School of Management, Pratham, one of the largest NGOs in India, and also Lend a Hand, which is a non-profit focused on rural education in India. What has prompted you to engage with this sector, whether it's tertiary education at the top of the pyramid or enabling schooling and vocational training in rural and urban India? Why your passion for education?
It's very simple. So I grew up in a very middle class family. I lost my father when I was 6 years old. It was only my mom and I. My mom used to work for the central government, so it's not as if we had a lot of money. Secondly, I came from a Sindhi family. And the worst thing you can do in a Sindhi family is work for somebody else. You don't have your own board, as they kind of speak. And there were lots of opportunities that came up where I could go work for other Sindhi families, which would have been the more tried and tested way of doing it. It's my mother who insisted that I study, and for her, by the way, I'm a double postgraduate for whatever it's worth.
Excellent.
Chartered accountant and chartered secretary. But even that was never enough for her. And I think to her dying day, her biggest regret was that I did not study further.
I didn't get a doctorate, you mean?
Doctorate? No, she said you should publish papers.
Okay.
On what's the point of having lived in all parts of the world when you haven't, shared your experiences or shared your learnings, or anyway, her expectations were extremely high. And I'm saying, it's the old adage, right? You feed a man, you give him, food for a day. You teach him how to fish, and, you change your lifestyle. And you work with some of these institutions and you see the Pratham, for example, you go and you see what it's done to young girls and, stuff like that. Such an incredibly liberating experience. I was at an event in London, and we were talking about, education and stuff like that. I don't think it was a Pratham event. I think it was a Barclays event, but Pratham or Barclays, I'm not sure. When I finished, I walked out. One girl came running after me and said, "Sir, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And she said, "Sir, what would your advice be? My parents are forcing me to give up my education and they want me to get married." This is UK, by the way. This is not India. UK. Indian girl. And sir, would you advise me to give up my education and get married or not? How do you even answer such a question? Your gut feel is, don't you dare get married, right?
Of course.
Study.
Yeah.
But I told her, I said, look, your parents obviously have your best interests at heart for you. Having said that, convince them that education will take you further away. These kind of, that must have happened about, 7, 8, 10 years ago. But this change, the power of education to change lives. Once you do that, you change, you educate. Pratham will tell you, you educate one woman and the whole village changes. Right? What can be more powerful than that?
Very true. And now that you moved to India, you continue the work that you were doing earlier on
So
education.
I was on the board of Pratham UK and helping them and stuff like that. Right now, I'm not formally associated with Pratham, but of course, Rukmini and Madhav are now very close, and I'm available to them. By the way, the Kotak Education Foundation does a lot of work with Pratham.
Okay.
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 And the Kotak CSR activities, my God, it brings tears to your eyes when uh, when you see what it is.
Very satisfying.
Extremely satisfying.
Ashok, as a senior leader who's worked across multiple geographies, multiple institutions, tell us some of your core principles that have guided your operating style over the years. I mean, people talk of you with a lot of awe and respect as a very people-focused person. But how do you see leadership requirements changing in this new world of ours?
So, at one level, so a lot has changed. At one level, nothing has changed. Ultimately, you know, ultimately, it's about building relationships with people and binding teams together.
Yeah.
And once you bind a team together, they will, if they're really a team, they'll give you discretionary effort, right? The anecdote that I always use is that of a robot, right? The robot that wins is not the robot which has one or two really, really strong folks who can, row
Yeah.
faster than anybody else.
Yeah.
The robot that wins is the one where all the oars hit the water at the same time, exit the water at the same time.
Correct.
Hit the water at the same time, exit the water at the same time.
Mm.
In fact, they have a cox at the front of the boat
Just
whose
make
sole
sure.
job
Yeah.
is to ensure alignment.
Correct.
It's no different in organizations. It's all about organizational alignment. So defining, the other thing is people kind of talk a lot about strategy and how it's like, the best thing in the world. For me, strategy is an extremely simple thing. Where are you now? Where are you going? How do you get there? 3 questions. That's about it. The robot, if it doesn't know where it's going, there's no chance it'll win.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't know from where it's starting, how does it get there? Right? So it's defining where are we now, defining where we want to go, how we get there, organizational alignment, higher the organizational alignment, higher the discretionary effort, the faster you get to where you want to go. Right?
Yeah.
It's just literally as simple as that. And it's all about people.
And talking of people, Ashok, we started our careers in banking probably 4 decades back. For somebody, a youngster, a young graduate starting in a banking career today, what kind of knowledge and skills would you recommend they prepare themselves with? Is it different from what we did 40 years back?
Well, to some extent, yes. I mean, today we are starting a bank. What you're really looking for is somebody who's got process and, engineering, like you, somebody who understands those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So
analytical skills.
Analytical, process orientation and stuff like that. A lot more is being done analytically, a lot more being done with technology and stuff like that, right? But at a level, being able to deal with people and manage people, I think, and no business school teaches you that.
Yeah.
So learning how to manage and deal with people is the hardest thing. And, if you can learn that earlier in your career, or at least, I don't know whether you ever learn it, at least experience it very early in your career, I think that makes a big difference.
Ashok, if you're not a banker, what would you be? If you turn the clock back, I mean, I know your mother wanted to be an academic probably.
Yeah, my mother wanted me to be a doctor.
Okay.
But as growing up, I tell you, my uncle used to have a little, a shop. In those days, it was the Oberoi, now the Trident.
Okay.
And
in Mumbai.
In Mumbai.
Yeah.
And I was never allowed to take time off during my summer vacations. I was sent to the shop.
Okay.
And I used to work late hours because in those days, that was the only fancy hotel. And the air crew used to live there. So because I was the most junior person, I had to stay back when the clothes were tailored and deliver it to the room.
Okay.
So I had to kind of stay back and do that. But every evening I would walk through that lobby and I would see these smart, well-dressed suits, ties, guys, I think another one day I want to be the manager of a
Really?
five-star hotel.
Okay.
Uh,
So that was the dream job,
that
general
was a
manager of a
dream
hotel.
job at that time.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ashok, finally, I want to ask you a series of rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Okay, you're used to this, right? You won't overthink the question and give me one answer for each of the choices I'll give you. Okay, and these are about Ashok the person, not Ashok the CEO. Okay, so I'm starting now. Night owl or early bird?
Night out.
Yoga or gym?
Yoga.
Indian or Chinese food?
Indian.
Mumbai, Dubai, or New York or London?
Mumbai.
Mumbai. Okay. Beach holiday or mountains?
Beach.
Mm-hmm. History or nature?
History.
Hard rock or Indian classical music?
Indian classical.
And finally, Bollywood or Hollywood?
Bollywood.
Any day. Okay. Ashok Vaswani, thank you so much for your time today. I wish you the very best with all the great work you're doing with Kotak Mahindra Bank. And we look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Subho. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Money Majlis is proudly supported by Aqua Now, the premier crypto as a service provider, now building in partnership with the top financial institutions in the Middle East. Discover more at aquanow.com.
Money Majlis is brought to you by E&, a global technology group.
Money Majlis is brought to you by Intellect Design Arena, driving digital adoption in banking and insurance.
Money Majlis is brought to you by Live Digital Bank, powered by Emirates NBD. Trust and innovation combined.
Money Majlis is brought to you by Network International, the leading digital payments technology company in the Middle East and Africa.
That's it for this episode of Money Majlis. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Ashok Vaswani, one of the best bankers and leaders that I know. Money Majlis is all about great conversations with amazing personalities. It is also about giving back to society by contributing all profits to a bunch of charities. My guest today, Ashok Vaswani, has decided to contribute his $1,000 Money Majlis gift card to the Global Fund for Women. Thank you, Ashok. The Global Fund for Women envisions a world where movement for gender justice has transformed power and privilege for a few into equity and equality for all. Today, they are the leading funder of gender justice organizations, initiatives and movements worldwide and work with over 5,000 organizations in 175 countries. It is your turn now to choose where you want to contribute your $50 gift card to. Please visit give.moneymajlis.com to choose one of the following causes: Dubai Cares, Red Crescent, Global Fund for Women, World Hunger Kitchen, Jaipur Foot, and the Orangutan Conservancy. Choose one of these 6 causes and redeem your $50 gift card, compliments of the sponsors of this podcast, and make your contribution. I'm sure you'll make that effort. That's it for today. Till next time, goodbye. Stay well and do good.